And
Still
shake
got my
hands.
jacket, so I have to go back and get it.
Still ringing.
Still ringing out there?
It is.
All right, we'll call the work session for the city of Martin, May 27th, 2025 to order. First order of business is going to be a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Baker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, and citizens. This is a budget hearing for the fiscal year 2026 budget, which is provided back here on the table. And basically, we're looking tonight to do the first reading of that. We balance a budget, since that's the state law. On the budget hearing itself, we have a description of the general fund that's in the agenda this evening. We have the layout of the description of the expenditures, and also the revenue, which total each $13,738,805, and as do the expenditures. So those balance out. Each one of those is enumerated by department as well as the revenue sources.
Questions, City Council, Ms. Knight,
No questions currently.
Mr. Clark,
No questions.
Ms. Dean,
No questions.
Ms. Wynn.
No question.
Comments from the audience? I know you haven't had a chance to see it. It's in the back. You're welcome to take a copy with you if you want to.
Yes.
Got
There's a link
any-
online as well.
That's all. Comments from anybody? Comments from the department head? Emma? All right. Hearing none?
Comments from the mayor?
We can leave it open if you'd like while we proceed with the work session.
Yeah, that's fine. That way somebody wants to come in, we can do that. Very good advice. You have the May 13th regular meeting minutes and the May 13th work session minutes. Any questions, comments, concerns about those? Hearing none. We'll have a consideration to approve the Marl Police Department's recommendation for an insurance payment and an additional $19,984 to replace Unit 47, which is a 2023 Ford Police Interceptor utility. There's a BIN number if you want it. And Mr. Baker, you want to explain that?
Sure. On the police department, this is where there was an accident involving one of the squad cars. The replacement value on it was unfortunately totaled due to all the airbags deployed. So travelers totaled it after our $5,000 deductible and the salvaging of the equipment by the police department. A new state contract vehicle was $49,900. The equipment transfer will be roughly $3,785. Unusable equipment that will have to be replaced, which is primarily the push bumper and the skirtings, will be $1,728. Graphic intent, $830 for a total cost of $56,243. After the insurance payment to replace that unit would cost us $19,984. So common sense dictates that we go ahead and replace a car for the $19,000, just under $20,000 mark. In your package, you'll also see the report from Travelers that shows evaluation of the vehicle and the payout.
Questions, Ms. Knight,
No questions.
Mr. Clark,
No questions.
Ms. Dean,
Mr. Clay.
No questions.
and Ms. Wynn.
No question.
Ordinance 2025-03, which is a resolution by the Mayor and Council to create the South Lake Community Improvement District. Mr. Baker.
Yes, sir. If you will direct y'all's attention not to the filler in the actual original agenda, that had some old and state information in it. If you would instead look to your handout, I believe it's been provided to the public as well, on resolution 2503. This is a resolution which shows the will of the council to create a South Lake Community Improvement District, provide an effective date and for other lawful purposes. This was assembled by our legal staff It's whereas the Act of Georgia General Assembly, 1992, was amended in 2016 for the Clayton County Community Improvement District Act. It basically allows us to create a community improvement district that would, and it's in Exhibit A and B, which will show you the map and quasi-legal description of the proposed CID district. Map is up here to my left. Basically what it does is incorporate that CID and allows it to be subject to taxes, fees, and assessments levied by the district board. By creating that, you also have to have through your determination to do so with the resolution, what to follow it up with an ordinance. It requires 2 readings. But the particular part of this resolution is to create a board to consider an executive director later on, a later date. Primarily the use of those should the majority of 75% of the ownership of that district, you need 51% of those individuals to agree to it. That would be a separate collection of information of who would agree and who wouldn't agree to that area. But if you see on page 2 there, it specifically lays out provisions for the following governmental services and facilities. Number 1 being street and road construction and maintenance, including curb, sidewalk, street lights, and devices to control the flow of traffic on the streets and roads, parks and recreational areas and facilities, stormwater and sewage collection and disposal systems, development, storage, treatment, purification, distribution of water, public transportation, terminal and dock facilities, and parking facilities, and such other services and facilities that may be provided by general law. So, essentially tonight, it's the resolution that Caucus of Electors is defined in the Act be held by December 23rd. Those dates are movable, but by December 23rd, 2025 within the district, the CID district, for the purpose of electing 5 district board members. It denotes a time and an election date, and also that they will take an oath of office on election to faithfully administer the duties under this act, and also that once that's completed, that would be forwarded to a copy to the tax commissioner of the Clayton County and the Department of Community Affairs and the Secretary of State. Following that's Exhibit A that describes the actual boundaries, the properties that are included. You'll also see a list of properties and a map, and then a larger map at the end of that as Exhibit B that shows the actual geographic boundaries.
Questions? Ms. Knight?
So we've got, I see where it has at the bottom, Board of Electors, so that's the City Council making the appointments. 5 members. Do we have is there a state mandated term, or do we have an inclination of the term?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that it will be staggered out, so as you do it, you will stagger them in. As they come out, there's typically 3-year terms,
Okay.
and then they are replicating as it. So what you do is appoint a few in 1 year, and then 2, and then 3, and then there would be a staggered replacement schedule for that.
Okay, and so for it to be a viable CID board, what's the minimum number of active?
The guidelines show 5. So you would have 5 members.
Okay, so from jump, we need to have 5, but we're gonna determine how to roll their terms in for the establishment.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So the initial appointments on some become like when we've done the other boards, where you'd set one for maybe 2 people for a 1-year term, 2 for a 2-year term, 1 for a 3-year term, so that you have that
Rotating that, yeah.
consistency in.
Okay. Just a general thought, we've had plenty of conversations about CIDs over the years, and there have been numerous studies. Some have involved Forest Park and Lake City, but I think we're at a point now where for us to move the needle past where we have gotten to now, there are some things that we need to try to do, and I think a CID would be a good thing for us to try to organize. Whether or not we'll get that support from the business community, we shall see.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kwan?
Hey, Mr. Becker, last meeting I've asked, just give us some example, like how much in percentage, in number increase, using, you know, some property owner, I mean, property that affected in this city and including,
Yes, sir.
so we can, the general citizen can understand, can feel the exact increase amount.
I think we, RJ, did we ever complete that one? For the percentage per business, if we were doing a 1 to 5 mil? Okay. We'll have that to you. We were looking at the disparity between, typically it runs 1 to 5 mils. Almost everyone in the state of Georgia that has a CID does a 5 mils because otherwise it's
5 mils.
consequential on collections. We will break that down per business. There's roughly 75 businesses on a list, so we can do that quite easily.
Yeah, so
We'll show
we,
you off their assessed value.
you so give us some real picture that,
Right.
you know.
So we'll run that between typically 3 to 5% for you, so you can see the differences in that.
Yeah. That is, just throw out instead of 5% and see how it goes, you know.
Yes,
Just an example, so we all can understand, have a picture that how much increase and can the businesses afford to, you know, to tolerate the increasement.
I seem to remember we did correct me if I'm wrong, RJ, I think we looked at some of those, and some of the differences would be per month on some of them, not all of them, of course, would be, some could be as small as $50 to $75, depending on, that's the smaller businesses, of course, per month, but, I will get you those numbers.
Okay, so the mall will be the one that affect the most, right?
Yes, sir.
And the mall in whole, or, I mean, we're taxing individual or the mall in whole?
Mall as a
The
whole,
mall's
so that's
the
the only,
property owner.
yeah, so it's an LLC.
But primarily what you're looking at is the property owners themselves, so
Yeah.
as you look at those larger property owners to go
Okay.
after the individual businesses, and it's a little bit tricky. Standalone businesses, if they're the property owner, then they would be impacted by that.
Sure, okay.
One of the things to think about with, say, South Lake, for an example, is right now their CAM fee is basically within the donut, right? Which means all of the property owners outside of that for the last 50 years have never had to pay for any of the landscaping, any of the security, any of the other stuff that went with it. And that's always been a complaint, is, you know, they benefit from it, but they don't pay for any of it. And while this isn't necessarily security services or something like that, but a combination of lighting, landscaping, street repaving, things like that, this will make it so that pretty much within that box, those people will pay. So it actually makes it a little fairer to the mall than having to pay it all on your own. Miss D.
Yeah, I just have one question regarding the selection of the board members for the CIB.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any, there's 5 members, a total of 5 members, but
Yes.
is there any qualifications for those members as far as, then will they have to take a class or courses or something like that?
I don't know if there's any class or course. I think the primary interest in that would be to garner business owners in that district so that they have a vested interest in seeing the best decisions done. Typically, and I don't know that there are any restrictions on who you could choose, but typically those are selected from business owners within the CID.
Okay, so would that be a decision as to qualifications that is statewide, or is that something that the council?
I think the council can set those, but I will also, as we look into, we do have the ordinance as well that we're reviewing, so as we get into that, there may be some precursors or some requirements that are built into that, which we could, I think the council has the autonomy in the ordinance to do whichever they'd like to do, to set some things in there. Now, as far as formalized classes I don't know that they have those. I haven't seen any, so, but that doesn't preclude the fact they exist, so we could definitely, what you would wanna do is hire probably a professional, you'd wanna hire a professional executive director that does that as their primary thing, and normally those are contracts, and it's not a full-time position because it doesn't require a full-time position, but they have experience in other CIDs, either in another state or in the state of Georgia.
Okay.
Miss Wynn.
Last time I asked that we, to explore alternative option or to attract revenue beside the CID. Did you have a chance to investigate?
There are some other alternatives aside from the CID. To raise that money, really you have a special tax district option that you could do. The idea of the CID is to have ownership in the CID so that you have people who are invested in it as well as paying funds into it. So the improvement is a priority for them. Kind of like a homeowners association almost, only in a business sense. As far as some of the other alternatives, we've examined grants, which are up in the air right now and very being redefined on a daily basis almost. So I know it's just like with the we had a BEAD grant, we had a technology grant that we were very close on the cusp of receiving, and that's been redirected and kind of put on hold for now. I don't think, as much as we've looked and we have examined this and had several of our folks who are helping us out in the government and with our grants itself, there are no specific, because you get in grants as far as federal and statewide, because you get into the hairy details of the fact of private ownership. So they're remiss to use tax funds to do something of that nature, even though it impacts the community at large. So really you have two options, and that's one to do a special tax district or to do a CID.
After the meeting last time, I reflect back, this is, the project as a whole is to beautify the district, right, attract tourism. So would it be this under NCTA scope, that attracting tourism? Can we use that money to beautify and attract tourism?
I think that would depend on what you're doing, and if you can, the justification for that is, can you justify that that is actually gonna have a direct impact on your tourism?
I think additionally, whether or not the MCTA as an authority has the ability to tax, I don't think it was established in that format. So you would have to have a vehicle through which you could collect a tax, and that would be the CID.
And
Their goals may be similar, but one has more of an ability to assess and collect that tax.
I think what this does is primarily address the issue. It's couches. Did you have a lot of ownership that's not in the state of Georgia, that's not local, that is collecting revenue off of depressed properties and not reinvesting in the area that they're making their means from? So a lot of these owners, ideally, we wouldn't have to address this issue because they would have reinvested into the properties themselves. And then, like the mayor mentioned, there's CAM fees that are collected on almost every one of these. I don't know what the CAM fees are going towards. I know we're in a situation where we wonder where our CAM fees go. Definitely not reinvesting into that, definitely not providing us the information that we need as a government even to show where they're spending those monies. So I think you get in a conundrum where you don't have there's no impetus to do the reinvestment in that. And this kind of focuses that, we're gonna do the reinvestment. And it only helps the businesses because it enhances their property value and it enhances the area itself.
And I can answer some of that. When you already look at what the city's made investments in, okay, whether it's the district or whether it's the exhibit hall, you've already put up, a couple $1 million a year money. You have the school system who's put up a substantial amount of money, which is great because, the city, we pay sales tax too, school sales tax. So we're now getting, the benefit of one of the bigger projects, which works for us. When you start to look at the visibility from I-75 now is really good, right? Probably the best it's been since 1975. Enough where we know that we have attracted real new development, a couple hotels, changing ownership of a couple other things. But if you're driving out there today, you can actually see where the developable land is left. And there's a lot more of it than you would think until the trees come down. Now you're looking at it going, man, we could do a lot there. And I think you're already seeing, and I know you're working with us on this too, is that you're doing what you were doing before, but you're gonna let some of that be handled by internal management. You're now gonna start to focus on economic development of Turning Third. And if you can, put additional restaurants out there and different things along those lines, there's more money that gets collected in the whole city, right? Because let's look at it differently. Had we done nothing, it would still look the exact same way for the next 25 years. Fair. I mean, that's probably true, at least on the developable land that's there. So there's your opportunity where you say, give me new revenue, new income, because odds of them building on something you couldn't see from I-75 in 50 years, I doubt seriously they would do it. And that's on, everybody to, work together to find the businesses we want, right? To have, a cooperative section on there. And I think that starts to pay for part of it. It may pay for a lot more of it than we think because of the multiplier effect of taking something that, looks pretty sad, and cleaning it up. We've seen signed packages now that look pretty good, right? Now, we still have a lot of partners we got to talk to and different things like that. But it's just like your house. You renovate your house, the market value of it looks pretty good. If everybody in your neighborhood renovates their house, the whole neighborhood value improves. So you have a mall that's probably 50% of its value in its heyday, right? So I see those as the opportunity where work with them where you can, do the things that we do. And to be honest, having now spent a little bit of time on this, on a personal level for me, we probably should have done this 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
When the study came out.
Whenever it was done, it was like, we waited for maybe the exact same reasons we might wait now, but what condition will we be in 10 years from now when our competitors are stronger? And we probably shouldn't have waited. Hindsight's 20/20. Now you look at it and go, but I don't think you can afford to wait anymore. But I do think there's real money there. Okay, and I could get it. It's not an easy subject.
Or
But
to your point, in terms of alternatives, there is a CID already formed in the area. We're not a part of. Aerotropolis is a CID as well. But CIDs aren't, necessarily a new thing. So whether or not we can get the buy-in for those businesses to tax themselves.
So, just for clarity, so after we make the decisions, right, do we have to go out to the business and get 51% of the
Yes.
vote for the business?
to implement it. So the first one's a resolution, the next one you do two readings, it's an ordinance. Then the real work begins. Convincing LLCs that are nothing but an entity on paper where this is some asset in a portfolio that obviously they're not managing very well, because all you gotta do is drive out there and see it. Now, there's a couple individual properties that you can still meet the person who owns the property, but it's very, very few. So will that LLC from Delaware come down here to Laurel, Georgia and talk to us? That's gonna be some real work. It'll be real work finding them, real work convincing them. And of course, not everybody out there seeing everything we're seeing, but we're trying to make as much of it available. But example, a combination of the lighting package or the sign packages, there's some teasers out there. $2 million. That's the price of, a good sign package. Not a great sign package, but a pretty good sign package. I can't tell you exactly the size of each digital sign, or I can in the back, but I can't tell you the digital quality, right? So, but that is the questions you're asking now, because let's say I did come and I knock on your door and I say, okay, Lana, this is a really good idea for you. One of the first questions you're gonna ask is, where's my money going? What specifically are you gonna spend the money on, right? And that'll have to be questions we ask, because that's where we would spend the money. I should have a sign package with at least some idea what it's gonna cost. I should have a landscaping concept with some idea of what it's gonna cost. If Loop Road is theirs, they're out $1 million. If it's ours, if you rebuild the whole thing, it's $1 million, So, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And even just since we started having a conversation, it's been going on for a while, obviously. We have much better data than we did not too long ago. And it will continue to improve, and all the way up to eventually, collecting money and spending it. And that's where Mr. Baker was talking about. Usually you have an executive director. Well, let's say we just go out and buy a car. I don't need an executive director to make a purchase. Does that make sense? You need an executive director to manage a process or to manage some of the goals and objectives, which might be partially economic development. Maybe some of it is, managing security concerns or things like that. So, buying a light pole, probably not so much, And right now, believe it or not, the value over there is not as staggering as you would think. So you can, put $1 million of tax on it, and you're raising $50,000. It's not going to get you very far. Right. So I do anticipate more of your money, and then if you're being fair to everyone over there, because again, if you put yourself in somebody's shoes, and I make an argument that, okay, I own South Lake Mall and I've been here for 50 years and you've collected sales tax from me for 50 years. Don't you think you should have made a reinvestment? I gave you money. What did you do with it? That's a good answer, right? I've heard that before from Libby Lassiter, who was the executive director for General Growth Properties. And I explained to her that a lot of that money was the school system. She did not care. I said a lot of that money went to Clayton County. She said she did not care. And I said, we got a little bit, and she still did not care. So it was like, I gave the government money, what did you do? Okay. Well, now you're actually seeing some reinvestment, some of that coming back to you. So on that, when you have the 2027 SPLOST, which is in play, that is the sales from that area. And there's a couple different things going out here as that comes out, as to where you would make that reinvestment. So I would say, I think we got a pitch of maybe a couple $1 million, where you would take a couple $1 million of those sales numbers and reinvest them in that area for projects in that area. And that makes sense. In which case, you're putting up a couple $1 million, we're putting up several $1 million. Those are real revenue sources. Those are not pie in the sky. It's something that you can look at today. And like I said, we probably should have done this a long time ago. And probably would not have lost as much value.
Last question. Mr. Baker, I'm interested in to know the breakdown of the dollar amount with the business and the Councilman Kawhi from 3 to 5%, what it looked like. Yeah.
Okay, we'll send this out to you all tomorrow. That should not be difficult to similarly get it out to the council and the mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? Anybody?
Yes. The number of businesses that will be included in this will be 70, how many did you say?
74, I believe.
74?
75. They're listed in the new handout that you got.
Okay.
Where's that?
Other questions? No? Okay.
Mr. Collins?
Oh, by all means.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council. You're talking about taxing the dollar amount, 74 business in that quarter. How do you determine that? Is it based on their annual revenue?
No, it's actually not the business, it's the property owner.
The property?
And it's based on the assessed value of the property, just like a property tax. So if your property was worth $500,000, you take 40% of the value, divide it by 1,000, that's how much each mill is. Versus say South Lake, which might have a value of 20 million, then you back into that. And so obviously the people who have greater value property will pay a higher real dollar number. And I think it requires, I think it's 50% of the property owners representing 70% of the value or 75% of that. And, just South Lake by itself, but again, if you have a choice of paying it all yourself versus something else, I got a feeling, you're getting what you wished for. You might want to be participatory, and so can only we can
So
try.
that 74 number kind of misleading.
But anybody that's out there right now, all you got to drive it and see it. You're seeing real results. Give us a little bit more room.
I think it should have been done long ago.
Yeah, hindsight, I I would agree with you. All right, no other questions? Comments? Okay. Ordinance 2502, basically that's setting up it's a second reading, right?
Yes, sir. This is a second reading and the adoption tonight is the adjustment of the schedule of fees. And it's an ordinance to amend Title III of the City of Morrow Code of Ordinances to provide for codification, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and provide effective date and for other purposes. This is where we desire to adopt an official schedule of fees that can be levied and collected to the cities. The schedule of fees is attached here to the proposed ordinance, and it basically sets a standard for that. And not all of them are affected in the CPI adjustments, but that is primarily what this addresses. And we issue those so there's no confusion on the entirety of the schedule of fees.
Questions, Ms. Knight,
No questions.
Mr. Clark,
No question.
Ms. Dean,
No questions.
Ms. Wynn.
No question.
Ordinance 2503, and this will be the first reading of the budget for fiscal year 2026. We still have an open public hearing. We'll probably just let that keep open until we get into it for the work session, because I see it in the regular meeting too, on item number 3. We'll just carry it until then. Other comments? Hearing none, we will convene the regular meeting of the city council at 7:30. You got some good coffee there?
You fed the worms?
Did I what?
Fed the worms.
I don't have worms. I have an appetite.
The worms.
I'd like to call the May 27, 2025 regular meeting of the Morrow City Council to order. If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Approval of the adoption of the May 13th, 2025 regular meeting minutes and the May 13th, 2025 work session minutes. You've had those before you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Do I hear a second? Motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Ms. Knight? Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Dean?
Aye.
And Ms. Wynn?
Aye.
Motion carries. We still had an extended public hearing on the FY 2026 budget. Most of the people that were here to start with are still here. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, we're going to close the first public hearing for that, and we'll have another one in a couple weeks. New business, consideration to approve the Morrow Police Department's recommendation to use insurance payment and an additional $19,984 to replace Unit 47, which was a 2023 Ford Police Interceptor Utility. The VIN number's there. You've had that discussed and explained by the city manager. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Ms. Knight? Mr. Qua?
Aye.
Ms. Dean?
Aye.
And Ms. Wynn?
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution 2503, a resolution by the mayor and city council of Morrow in creating the South Lake Community Improvement District. This is the resolution which ultimately, if passed, would set into motion an ordinance section. You've had that was explained in the work session as well. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Ms. Knight?
Aye.
Mr. Qua?
Aye.
Ms. Wynn? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Dean?
Aye.
And Ms. Wynn?
No.
Motion
Nay.
carries. Okay. Ordinance 2502, Title III, basically codification, repeal conflicting ordinances, basically setting up that's resetting the schedule, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was explained by the city manager in the work session as well. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion properly seconded. All those in favor say aye. Ms. Knight,
Aye.
Mr. Qua,
Aye.
Ms. Dean,
Aye.
and Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ordinance 2503, this is the first reading, and this is the adoption of the budget for fiscal year 2026. Copy of that is available for you, the public hearing we just had. Second reading and adoption would be on June 10th, 2025. If you come up with any additional questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to the city manager and express otherwise. Comments from the citizens? Ms. Chris?
A week or so ago, I was back in the fire department, and I got looking around, I said, what is going on? And I know over a year ago, we all went on the tour of the upstairs, it looked great, but we forgot something. Downstairs where they basically live, when I went in there, they said, I walked in, they said, be careful. The floor had bumps in it this high, where it had not been laid out right. And there was more than one, there was one there was one in the hall. And you can walk on it and go up and down like that, but it's ridiculous. Then
I
where
thought that was
the-
being fixed with a
I'm not
vinyl.
finished.
This is the
Today I
sixth
went
time
back over
they've
there
come
and
out.
they had taken up the floor and now it's cement painted, but then there's some bad places in it. But where they used to have their lounge chairs and stuff, they got stuff that you put on your patio or on your screened-in porch for chairs to sit in, and they're not comfortable. They have two old tables that have been there for years and years and years to eat food on. They no longer have desks in their office. They don't have drawers or anything. They have tables to put their stuff on for an office. What happened to their furniture? I mean, these are the people who take care of us, and we're letting them live in this crap, and it's been like a year and a half.
Well, I know there's been issue with water on the floor or something
yeah.
about it absorbing, and I know they've done that multiple times.
That they pulled it all
So
up.
I think it's going back with like a vinyl plank, and that's generalization. As far as
But like
the,
the rest of the stuff, I mean,
I don't know, Chief?
Yeah, they removed the floor last week, it's back down to the bad epoxy or whatever it was they put on, but the contractor told me he was going to get with me, about putting vinyl down in the future, but I don't know a date or anything like that.
We know that there's something about the moisture in that
Yeah.
floor or something not
Right.
working with the epoxy.
but, I mean, their seating area, they used to have these big lounge chairs, they don't have that anymore. They do not have desks in any of the offices. They have tables to put their computer on. I mean,
didn't
were we
order the
not
tables,
supposed
but-
to replace that stuff when it got thrown away? They would have been better off to left the lounge chairs there and put towels over them or blankets or whatever.
Yeah, those chairs were purchased in 2010, I think.
Right, but now they have nothing. They have those
They were broken.
things that are uncomfortable.
We'll look into it.
I mean, go back there and look.
Not disagreeing with you, we'll look.
I mean, it's been a year and a half. I would think we would have had time to fix the whole thing.
I don't think it's been a year and a half. Has it been a year and a half? Has it been that long? Okay. 'Cause like I said, I know the floor has been an issue, right?
Right.
And then the other
and
piece is,
They got it all taken up now.
Right.
What's there now looks better than what was there.
okay.
But does this contractor not know what he's doing?
I got a feeling it's something to do with the floor, right? Because it worked upstairs. For whatever reason, it's not working
Right.
downstairs. I don't know. But I think,
Well,
sometimes
I
moisture
think it's
gets in
cement
there.
downstairs and that makes a difference in the moisture level to get things right.
Fair enough. We'll look at it. Other
Mayor,
comments?
I have a
Yeah, go ahead.
So, do we have, anything on order as far as replacement?
No, ma'am.
We don't? Okay, so, are we,
I don't know. Let's let them look at it and see
something
what's
that
going
we
on.
have to, the council have to approve?
I got a feeling they could figure this stuff out for themselves. It's furniture. It's not a lot of money. They can get it fixed. Other comments? Okay. Ms. Knight?
Good to be back. Thank you all for the condolences. And I'm excited to keep it moving.
Mr. Quah?
No comments.
Ms.
Good to be here.
I thank you, Mr. City Clerk and Mr. City Manager, for placing the public notice on the marquee that we do have an election coming up. I was surprised myself. Someone didn't tell me. And so I just wanted to make sure that things like that, you know, we're not neglecting, because we don't look at Board of Elections all
Are
the
you
time.
talking the Public Service Commission, the one that's on right now?
Yes,
Okay, just checking.
yes.
Well, I don't know which one you're talking about. I just want to, I know they're voting over there, but so yes. Good job, Dorothy. I just checked. If you hadn't voted already, it is the Public Service Commission. You can read on the whys. It's out of order, if you will.
Does anybody know why we're doing a special election? Why is it being done in November, or why wasn't it?
You wanna explain that?
Yes, they had there was a lawsuit that was filed out of Fulton County that has finally been resolved, overruled by the 11th Circuit, so now they are replacing 2 in a special election. So it's District 2 and District 3. District 2 stretches out to Rockdale and that area, and then 3 is Fulton, Clayton.
What
and
district are we in?
Yeah, but it's at-large elections, so it's not per district, which is part of the reason for the lawsuit. The lawsuit wanted districts. 11 circuits said not required, so now you go back to normal. All right, where did I stop? I stopped on the election. Good job. All right, Miss
No
Wynn.
comment.
I don't have any comments either. It's all good.
Cat okay at home?
Yeah, cat looks like the eye is gonna stay in, and my child has stopped crying, so it's a bonus. Anybody can teach my cat how to fight, at least a little better than he has for the last month, that'd be great. Meeting adjourned.